Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to MoonKast Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, women and gentle germs, this is the one and only Griffin G. Child, and I am excited today. This is the number 6 MoonKast that I am bringing to you. Today's MoonKast has been brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double LP from yours truly, Griffin G. Child. Release date is still to be announced. Throughout this MoonKast, you will hear music from that project. And if you enjoy the music that you hear, I guarantee that you will like the project that I am going to be bringing out here shortly in the new year. Just continue to stay tuned. Today is January 19th, 2016. This is the day after Martin Luther King's celebrated holiday. I just want to pay my respects to all the people of that era, to Martin Luther King as well, just for the doors that he opened, all the great athletes who had to sacrifice their well-being to pave the way for people like me today to even be in front of you to speak. We still have a long way to go with the discrimination issues, as well as the social class issues, the economic issues, and as well as the police brutality issues. But we are in somewhat of a better place because of Martin Luther King, and not just him. We're talking about Black Panthers, we're talking about Malcolm X, and so many, many more. They decided to give Martin Luther King his day, but there were so many more and so much more that was done that led us to this time that we are in today. And I just wanted to pay my respects and say thank you to all the forefathers, all the grandmothers and great-grandmothers, grandfathers and great-grandfathers for what they went through, so that people like me in today's time will have the opportunity to speak. And what I like to do, as well as hopefully people of my generation and going into the future, that we can do the same thing and make it a better world for our great-grandchildren, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. So with that being said, once again, this is the number 6 MoonKast. This is my 6th one. If you have missed any of these MoonKasts, they aren't going anywhere, so feel free to jump back and listen to any of the other ones. If you are led to this one, you should see the other ones that came before. The first MoonKast was started on December 9th, 2015, and they go up until today's time. So if this is your first time listening to a MoonKast, I wanted to say thank you, and hopefully this will not be your last time, and that you will continue to stay with me as I continue to take this journey and give you the most expert analysis on the NBA, a little bit of college, and you might hear a little bit of football sprinkled in. So let's go ahead and get into what we're going to talk about in today's show. We're going to talk about a little bit of NFL news very quickly. Like I said, I'm all basketball, so a little bit of NFL. We're going to recap the scores from the NBA on Martin Luther King Day. There were a lot of games played last night, so we're just going to go over a couple of scores, as well as my analysis on the Golden State Warriors beating down or beating the living snot out of the Cleveland Cavaliers. It pains me to say it, but I will go over that analysis of that game as well. We also have 3 NBA teams we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors, as I spoke to you about last week, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Sacremento Kings. We're also going to jump over to college for my last segment. We're going to talk about 5 potential NBA draft picks. I spoke about 5 in a previous MoonKast, but there are 5 more guys I want to talk about in this MoonKast. And so we want to talk about a couple of college guys. We're going to talk about Toronto Raptors, Dallas Mavericks, Sacramento Kings. We're going to cover last night's NBA scores and analysis, and just a pinch of NFL news. So, with that being said, we are going to take a pause for a quick station identification, and I will be back with you shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to MoonKast Radio.
Alright, we are back. Once again, the MoonKast has been brought to you today by MoonKast Chronicles, the double LP from yours truly, Griffin G. Child. Coming your way this year. Release date is still to be announced. You don't want to miss out on that. Stay tuned for that. Also, anybody that wants to get in contact with me and get a hold of me can reach me on Twitter at Griffin_Gchild. That's GRIFFIN_GCHILD. So at Griffin_Gchild. You can get a hold of me there. Alright, so like I said, little bit of NFL news and then I gotta move on. So we have no time to waste. We're gonna go ahead and jump right on into it. We're gonna start with last week's game. We had a phenomenal game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Two phenomenal throws in the last minute of that game to get it into overtime when the legend Larry Fitzgerald was left wide open. And he actually almost ran a touchdown, ran it down to the 10-yard line. And on the next play, he actually punched in a touchdown, winning that game 26-20. And the Carolina Panthers, they jumped out on the Seattle Seahawks, 31-0. But the Seahawks made a very impressionable second half, and they made it respectable. But they still lost 31-24. So you're going to have the Arizona Cardinals playing the Carolina Panthers in the NFC Championship for all the marbles going to the Super Bowl. In my opinion, I do believe that the Carolina Panthers, I believe this may be their year to make it to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with Cam Newton to lead his team to the Super Bowl this year. Going over to the AFC, the New England Patriots beat the Kansas City Chiefs 27-20, and the Denver Broncos beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-16. So you're going to have Peyton Manning and Tom Brady going at it for another trip to the Super Bowl. This is going to be very interesting. This may be Peyton Manning's last season. He hasn't announced it officially yet. But if this is his last season, he may want to go out on top. Denver's defense has been very impressive. They're very impressive in that Pittsburgh Steelers game. A lot of their receivers, they just weren't catching the ball in that Pittsburgh Steelers game. Peyton Manning actually looked pretty well. I look at Peyton Manning to go back to Sanders again. He is a wide receiver. And I look at Peyton to go back to Demaryius Thomas as well as C.J. Anderson. He had a great game punching in that winning and scoring touchdown in the last few minutes of that game. He punched in that touchdown. So it's hard to say. I may have to give the edge to New England because they have Edelman back. So I'm going to go with New England beating the Broncos just because I didn't like what I saw out of the receivers. They missed a lot of open catches. The ball was right in their chest. So I'm going to go with Tom Brady. But Tom Brady does not have a winning record when he travels to Mile High Stadium. But I believe because of the Deflategate situation and what he went through last year, I'm going to give him the edge this time around. So I'm going to go with a Super Bowl. I'm going to go with a Super Bowl of the New England Patriots playing against the Carolina Panthers. And I will have to give you my Super Bowl pick. Like I said, I'm going to watch these games and I'll give you my Super Bowl pick after I see these games. I'm not a big fan of the Super Bowl. I do not like the halftime show at all. I think it's made too big of a spectacle, but that's neither here nor there. But those are my picks. I'm going to go with Carolina Panthers going against the New England Patriots. and we're going to see what happens from there. So I'd like to go ahead and switch over to my favorite sport, which is basketball. We're going to talk about the National Basketball Association. We're going to talk about the scores from last night's games of Martin Luther King Day, which was, like I said, a special day. But there should be more national holidays for other black heroes or African American heroes, but we have to be thankful that we have this one. Let's go ahead and go into the scores. The New York Knicks, they beat the Philadelphia 76ers 119-113. Philadelphia, they're still losing game, but they have played a little bit better since the hiring of Jerry Colangelo, and since they traded and brought back Ish Smith. They have played better. So that is promising for the Philadelphia 76ers going into next year. I do believe in the tanking philosophy, and I do believe that Philadelphia will make strides next year with Dario Saric coming over from overseas and whoever they get with this top 5 pick. Moving along, the Charlotte Hornets beat the Utah Jazz 124-119. Kemba Walker had a career high. He had an explosive night, 52 points. I believe Jimmy Butler still has the season high for 53 out of all active players. But Kemba Walker had an explosive night with 52 points. Gordon Hayward, he had a great game, 36 points. He is a player I talked about in last week's podcast with the Utah Jazz. He is the leading scorer on that team. He is the star of that team. And it looks like Rudy Gobert is bouncing back very well from his knee surgery. So let's keep it moving. The Portland Trailblazers beat the Washington Wizards 108-98. The Memphis Grizzlies beat the New Orleans Pelicans 101-99. The Chicago Bulls beat the Detroit Pistons 111-101. Pau Gasol had a great game with 31 points, 12 rebounds. Yerson Ilyasova, he had a great game, 19 points, 11 rebounds. I spoke about Yerson Ilyasova in a previous MoonKast. So Detroit, they lost this one. They did beat the Golden State Warriors in the last one. Actually blew them out. So very impressive win. The Atlanta Hawks beat the Orlando Magic 98-81. The Toronto Raptors beat the Brooklyn Nets 112-100. Brook Lopez had a 29-point game. Very impressive game for him in that loss. The Dallas Mavericks, who I will talk about later in the MoonKast, they beat the Boston Celtics 118-113. Dirk Nowitzki scoring 31 points in that game. The Los Angeles Clippers, they went to overtime with the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul had an amazing game, 28 points. And J.J. Redick, the former Duke All-American, hit 9 3-pointers on that game. He had a career high, 40 points. Very impressive for J.J. Redick. The most impressive stat from him, though, was his 9-for-9 free throw shooting in that game. So he didn't miss a free throw. So that was very impressive. A very good win. Dwight Howard, who I criticized in an earlier MoonKast, had 36 points and 26 rebounds. He had an extra bounce to his step. He actually looked very good. He hit his free throws. He had a very impressive game. I was very impressed with Dwight Howard. Hopefully his injury woes are behind him, but we can see more of him playing in this particular fashion. Last but not least, the Golden State Warriors annihilated the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers got destroyed in a 132-98 beatdown. The Golden State Warriors. I want to go ahead and talk about them for just a quick second, or a couple of minutes rather. They destroyed the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they didn't know what hit them. They played too slow. Golden State, they can knock down a couple of threes. They can score 10 points in just 1 minute. And Cleveland never recovered from that. They played from behind, and just didn't have enough to even hang with the Warriors. Just to be honest with you, I do believe that we could be, or that we are in, the Stephen Curry dynasty era. Just as we were in the Kobe and Shaq era, we were in the Michael and Scottie era, we were in the Bad Boy Pistons era, the Showtime Lakers and the Boston Celtics era. This is a team that I believe is just head and shoulders above everyone else. They haven't played San Antonio yet, so that will be a great test. And they haven't played the Oklahoma City Thunder yet. But as far as playing Cavaliers have no chance right now. If the Cavaliers were to play this way in the finals, they would get swept easily. I do believe with the healthy Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving in the finals that the series probably would have went 7 games. I do believe Cleveland would have had a chance to win that series still to this day. The problem this year is that once you win the championship, it takes you to a whole new level as far as your confidence. And I've heard Phil Jackson speak about this when he talked about the aura of a champion. And once you have tasted that champagne, once you've been to the mountaintop, you're able to play at a different level from teams who haven't done it. The Spurs have done it, and so they may be a team that can contend with the Warriors, but we haven't seen them play yet. Oklahoma City Thunder, they have a guy in Westbrook and Kevin Durant who can go at them as well. They're playing well, but as far as the Cleveland Cavaliers, they failed miserably. And like I said, it hurts. I am a fan of LeBron James, but I have to be honest here. They're looking at getting swept if they're not able to turn it around in the finals. Now, Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving missed a lot of shots, but they just looked pretty awful. Stephen Curry came out and took a shot at the Cleveland Cavaliers, saying that we hope it still smells like champagne. That was the statement made by Stephen Curry. And the Cavaliers, I believe they wanted to come out and be aggressive, but Golden State is just too good. And this is probably just their time to dominate the NBA. We will have to see at the end of the season. And we'll have to see what they do against the Spurs in Oklahoma. But if the Golden State Warriors do win the championship, you do have to put them up there with the Showtime Lakers, Boston Celtics. You have to put them up there with the Wilt Chamberlain Philadelphia 76ers. You have to put them up there with the Boston Celtics in the 60s with Cousy and Bill Russell. So we just have to see how this season is going to play out. But as far as what I saw last night, they look like a team that you have to mark in history. They're the type of team that comes around every 20 years, 20 to 30 years. So we haven't seen a team make a mockery of the league to this level since the Chicago Bulls. Shaq and Kobe Lakers, they didn't dominate the regular season. They dominated the playoffs. So, but as far as that dynasty in that era, that was that time. Now we have this time here. The Miami Heat, the pieces didn't quite fit as well, even though they did win the 2 titles. The pieces didn't fit as well as this Golden State team. The thing with Golden State is they actually signed players that other teams had no use for. Sean Livingston played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Andre Iguodala played for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, Andre Iguodala could not carry the 76ers, but on the right team, which he's on right now, he is the perfect piece. You also have Leandro Barbosa. So you have like 3 to 4 6'5", 6'6" guys that can all handle the ball and can all bring the ball up the court. And you have that once in a generation superstar in Curry. So you have all these pieces of players, and the way that they drafted and signed guys, you have to give the kudos to Golden State's front office management. I'm just being honest here. Very disappointed in the Cavaliers, but Golden State, this is just probably just their time to dominate the NBA. They might dominate the NBA for the next few years. I will be the first to come out and say that LeBron James' window may have closed on winning a title. I'm just saying it first. I'm not going to wait to hear if somebody else say it. I'm going to say it now. His time may be coming to a close, or if it's not already close to win a title, because you have a lot of younger teams with younger players that are up and coming, and they're chomping at the bit to get that title. In any other year, if you took Golden State out of it, Cleveland would have a better shot, but they didn't look that great against San Antonio as well. Kawhi Leonard he's on a tear right now. We're going to talk about the Spurs in a future MoonKast. But sometimes your window closes. And so the thing with LeBron James, I'm going to say this real quick. LeBron James has never had the legendary coaching. I feel Eric Spoelstra was probably the best coach he ever had, and it just could have been because LeBron was in his prime. But I do believe in order to be a championship team, you have to have the perfect marriage of a legendary coach. Not saying he's a legend at that time, but you have to see the pieces, or you have to see the potential of that coach to be a legendary coach. And you have to have a once-in-a-generation superstar. You can go back 30 years, and you'll only find one team in the last 30 years, once-in-a-generation superstar to win a championship, and that would be the 2004 Detroit Pistons. And they had enough good players with the cohesiveness that they could win it all. So LeBron didn't have that his first stint or his first tenure in Cleveland. He didn't have that legendary coach. He did have Pat Riley in Miami. Let's come out and say it. That might be his downfall. Maybe he had a better shot with the Miami Heat roster than with this Cleveland Cavalier roster. Hindsight 2020 is starting to look like the Kevin Love trade is a flop, and I'm gonna come out and say that first as well. It's looking like they were better off with Andrew Wiggins, but it's neither here nor there. Of course, it's still early on, but if LeBron fails to win a championship, you've heard it here first. He may be the type of player to get his championship on the way out, maybe 3 to 5 years. But at that time, he may not be the best player on his team when he does win. But like I said, you heard it here first. So we've talked about a lot of things in this segment. A lot of things. And so we're going to keep it moving. Since I'm on a roll here, I'm on fire right now. We are going to take a break and take a pause for station identification. And I will be back with you shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to MoonKast Radio.
Once again, I am back. This MoonKast has been brought to you today by MoonKast Chronicles, the double LP from yours truly, Griffin G. Child. The release date to be announced. No release date yet, but like I said, you don't want to miss out. You want to get a hold of me on Twitter, you can reach me at Griffin_G-Child. That is GRIFFIN_GCHILD. So you can get a hold of me there as well. Last segment was on fire. I was in my zone. So we're going to keep it moving. No time to waste now. It's time to boogie down. So let's go ahead and get right to it. We're going to start this segment off. We're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors. We're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks, and we're also going to talk about the Sacremento Kings. So let's start this segment off talking about the Toronto Raptors. Currently, they are the second seed in the Eastern Conference, right behind the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they are on a 5-game winning streak. They have won 7 of their last 10 games. This is a team on the up and up. They haven't won a playoff series since Vince Carter was there, so I know they're looking to win another playoff series. They haven't won a playoff series in a long time. We're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors real quick, and we're going to talk about a couple of new additions to the team. The biggest free agent signing from Toronto was DeMarre Carroll. He is a two-way small forward. He can shoot the three, he can play defense, he can D up. The issue with DeMarre Carroll is that he had a knee procedure on his knee, and so he's going to be out for 2 months. So that could be a devastating blow for this team, and that could also hold them back from really making a serious run in the playoffs. As of right now, they're not a match for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that could change. So right now, the Toronto Raptors, they sit with a 26 11-15 record. Like I said, they're number 2. They're 3 games behind Cleveland. If Cleveland continues to lose the way that they are, then they could lose that spot. Right now, Cleveland have been the best team, but Toronto is actually right there. And then you have the Chicago Bulls, who are right behind them. So, once again, Toronto picked up DeMarre Carroll. They also picked up Bismack Biyombo. He was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. I apologize if I am mispronouncing his name, but it's Bismack Biyombo. He is the big man in the middle. But he also comes off the bench for Jonas Valanciunas. Now, Jonas Valanciunas, he had a minor surgery on his wrist, so he missed a lot of games this season, but he is now back. So he is averaging 12 points a game. Bismack Biyombo only averaging 5.5 points per game, but he is more so there to clog up space for his defensive presence. He leads the team in blocks. DeMar DeRozan, he averages 22.8 points a game. He is leading the team in scoring. He is an all-star candidate. Kyle Lowry having a phenomenal season, averaging 21 points a game. So Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, they have one of the best backcourts in the NBA. A lot of speed and versatility and athleticism, especially the athleticism from DeMar DeRozan. They also picked up Corey Joseph in the offseason from the San Antonio Spurs. He plays the backup point guard position. He is a very good, steady point guard, can come in off the bench and run your offense for you and just keep the tempo. They have Terrence Ross. He's an athletic, small forward, not quite as good as DeMarre Carroll, but he does fill in quite nicely. They picked up Anthony Bennett. He was the former number 1 draft pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers, traded to Minnesota in the Wiggins trade, and then he was cut and waived, and so he went back to Toronto, Canada, which is that's where he's from. He was born and raised in Canada, and so he's back with his home team. He has some injuries as a rookie, and he just hasn't had the playing time to really sustain himself. A couple of guys off the bench. They have Luis Scola. He's a very nice complimentary piece. He's a good offensive spark plug. He is averaging 9.9 points a game. They also have Bruno Caboclo. He is a foreign player. He hasn't really had the playing time to really show what he could do. But he is a guy who he does have the wingspan and the length. He just needs the playing time, but it may be a little while. He's probably just not ready right now. They also have a guy by the name of Lucas Nogueira. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's another young guy who may see some more playing time with DeMarre Carroll out for his knee surgery. So Toronto is actually sitting pretty right now. The number 2 spot, they're a team that's on the up and up. Like I said, DeMar DeRozan is a free agent. They have to pray they can keep him. You don't want to lose him. They are coached by Dwayne Casey. He's a very nice, humble guy. He's a good coach. And so they have good coaching in place, but they have to be patient. They're not quite as good as Cleveland. You don't want to do any firings or anything of that nature. They do have Mr. Udry. Udry is the general manager. He was the general manager of the Denver Nuggets. And he was part of the orchestration of the Carmelo trade, where they got Gallinari, Timothy Mozgov, they got Wilson Chandler, and a few other pieces for Carmelo. So they have the management in place, and they just have to hang in there and continue to build experience. So we're going to go ahead and switch over now from the Toronto Raptors, and we're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks now. The Dallas Mavericks, they are sitting in the number 6 spot, the 6th seed, with a 24-19 record. They have won 1 game. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They lost to Cleveland last week. They lost to the Spurs as well on Sunday. So, like I said, they're in the 6th spot. That is a tough trip to go into Texas, and you have to play Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. That is a rough trip right there. So a lot of teams don't survive the Texas Triangle. But like I said, Dallas, they're actually in a good place. They're actually a surprise team. They were a team that I was not sure if they would make the playoffs or not. Let's look at some of their numbers real quick. The team is being led by Dirk Nowitzki. He is the once-in-a-generation player that I was talking about. He's averaging 17.8 points a game. They went after DeAndre Jordan last year. DeAndre Jordan made a verbal agreement, as I know a lot of you know, and he had a change of heart and backed out on that agreement. So during that time, they lost Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler went to Phoenix, so they no longer have Tyson Chandler, but they actually picked up Zaza Pachulia. He's a decent big man. He's averaging 11 rebounds. He's actually not a bad fit for them. But they picked up Zaza Pachulia in the offseason. They also picked up Deron Williams. Deron Williams, he is a Dallas, Texas native, and he played with the Brooklyn Nets. Didn't quite live up to expectations. In Brooklyn, he had a lot of ankle surgeries. I know when your ankles aren't right, it's hard to go. So he didn't have the success he wanted. They gave him a 6-year, $99 million deal. He didn't live up to that deal at all. Brooklyn bought him out, and Mark Cuban, who is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, or the majority owner, he brought him in. So they have Deron Williams there. They also picked up Wesley Matthews in the offseason. He is coming off an torn Achilles. He played with the Portland Trailblazers last year. The Portland Trailblazers had one of the best starting fives in the NBA last year with Lillard, Matthews, Batum, Aldridge, and they also had Robin Lopez. So they had a very, very nice starting five, but DeMarcus Aldridge left, Batum got traded, Wesley Matthews left. Wesley Matthews is having a decent year. He actually came back early. He's averaging 12.8 points a game off of that torn Achilles. So they were able to pick up Wesley Matthews. He is a good defensive two-way player. He's a guy that can score and play good defense. I know it's going to take him a while to fully get back together again. As far as, when you have such a big injury of that type. Let's look at the roster a little bit more real quick. They also have Chandler Parsons. He is a guy who had big time knee surgery. He's averaging 9 points a game. He is a pretty good 3-point shooter for that team. They have a nice young player named Dwight Powell. He doesn't get a whole lot of playing time, but he's a nice little young player off the bench. He's a power forward that can shoot the ball. They drafted Justin Anderson out of Virginia. He is a senior. He played 4 years at Virginia. He's a guy that can come in and play. As they go forward in the future, he's a guy that can get more playing time. They also picked up JaVale McGee. He is on a lot of bloopers as far as the Shaqtin' a Fool and things of that nature. He's a pretty good defensive player. The basketball IQ is not that high from what the NBA experts say. They also have Raymond Felton, and they have Charlie Villanueva. Charlie Villanueva, he's a good guy to come off the bench and come in and spot up shoot. They have JJ Barrera. He was a big piece of why they won the title in 2011. He had a great season that year. Mark Cuban wanted to save money, and so he got rid of a couple of pieces that helped him win that championship. JJ Barrera actually went to Minnesota, and now he's back in Dallas. It's good to see that he's bounced back. He's had a couple of big games for him. He hasn't played that great as of late, but he had a couple big games for him back in December. They also picked up Jeremy Evans from Utah. He's a young player. Doesn't really have a defined game at this point, but he is a former slam dunk champion. So they have a few pieces there in Dallas. Not quite enough to win a championship, but they do have a few pieces to make a run, and they can scare a few teams. So we're going to go ahead and shift. We're going to shift from Dallas, and we're going to talk about the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings on paper, they should be able to get a playoff spot, in my opinion. Right now, they are 10th in the Western Conference. They have a 17-23 record. They're actually just one game behind the Utah Jazz. The Portland Trailblazers are 19-25. So they're kind of fighting it out for that 8th spot. Talent-wise, I feel like Sacramento, they should be able to win enough games to get that 8th seed. Let's look at Sacramento. They're actually a fun team to watch, in my opinion. They have the great DeMarcus or Boogie Cousins. I think DeMarcus Cousins is unanimously the best big man in the game. I do believe he could become a Hall of Fame big man if he keeps his attitude under control and that he continues to play. He added the three-point shot to his game. So Boogie Cousins or DeMarcus Cousins, he can step out and hit the three. He has some handles so he can dribble the ball. He is very skilled for a big man. I do believe that if the team was more successful, that he could be a MVP candidate. I do believe he's a top 10, top 12 NBA player in today's game. He is averaging 25 points and 11 rebounds. Those are great numbers. He needs to cut down on his turnovers, though. He's averaging 3 turnovers a game, so he needs to cut down on that. Rajon Rondo. He is having a renaissance or a comeback season. He is averaging 11 assists a game. He has a very good 3.0 assists to turnover ratio. Of course, he's kind of a knucklehead. He does a lot of weird things, tries to trip players, and he does a lot of things 20 years ago nobody would notice, but we're in a new age where you notice every little thing. So he does a lot of weird things off the court. He said things to an official who came out and said he was gay, and those type of things it doesn't sit well in today's society. He's having the type of season that should warrant him a long-term contract. He is 29 years old. He doesn't have an athletic type of a game, so he can play until he's 35, 36 and still be able to run an offense because he's not athletic. Putting him with Cousins might be too many knuckleheads in the locker room. I do like Rondo. He didn't fit too well in Dallas. I think he fits well here in Sacramento because he has more free reign to run the offense, with Rick Carlisle, who is Dallas's coach, a little bit more restrictive on how he wants the offense ran. So Rudy Gay, he is the second leading scorer. He's averaging 18 points a game. There was a trade, a proposed trade of Rudy Gay going to New Orleans for Ryan Anderson that it fell through. Rudy Gay has always been a nice scorer. When you look on paper and you see him on a roster, you think that the team that has him should be a winning team, but for some reason it doesn't translate to wins when you have him on the roster. They also have Darren Collison. He is the son of 2 track star athletes. Darren Collison, he's very good off the bench, averaging 13.1 points. When Rondo has been suspended a couple times, Darren Collison has came in and he's ran the show. He's done a pretty decent job. They have Omri Caspi. He's averaging 12 points a game. He's from Israel, and I think that if you were able to trade Rudy Gay, that he would be a player that you might want to start at the small forward. He can step out and shoot the three. He hit a career high 9 3-pointers against the Golden State Warriors. He was in his zone that night. They have the rookie. I know it was Willie Trill Cauley-Stein, but we'll just go with Willie Cauley-Stein out of Kentucky. Willie Cauley-Stein played on that 2012 Kentucky team. The Kings probably don't need him at this moment because they have Costa Koufos. But Willie Cauley-Stein, I do believe that he is a big man that can step out and guard the pick and roll. So when the opposing point guard comes off the screen, I do believe that Cauley-Stein has the lateral quickness to step out and guard that opposing point guard. But you're going to have to wait a few years on him just to see if he ends up, if this is the team he's going to stay on, or how he's going to develop. Like I mentioned before, Costa Koufos, he's a good low post big man. He can score off the low post pretty good. They also have Stephen Curry's little brother, Seth Curry, who's a phenomenal shooter just like big brother Steph and the father Dale Curry. Seth Curry hasn't really had a chance in the league yet. He's been in the D-League. He scored a lot of points in the NBA Developmental League, so he scored a lot of points there. Hasn't had a chance in the NBA, but right now he is playing with Sacramento. Hopefully he gets that chance. The Sacramento Kings, their draft pick is up in the air. They traded Nick Stauskas last year to the Philadelphia 76ers, so I'm not sure about how the draft pick is going to work out for them going forward. They also have Marco Bellinelli. He's a nice shooter. He actually won a championship with those 2014 San Antonio Spurs. So all in all, they have a nice team. Like I said, Utah has the 8th spot right now, but Sacramento, they should be able to get that 8th seed and get that 8th spot. So I know that they're fighting for that. So we just covered the Toronto Raptors, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Sacramento Kings. So these are the 3 NBA teams we wanted to cover for today, and we want to cover a few more next week. So we're going to take another pause for a station ID, station identification, and I will be back with you shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to MoonKast Radio.
All right, I am back. This will be the last segment of today's show. Once again, the MoonKast has been brought to you today by Moonbase Chronicles, the double LP from yours truly, Griffin G. Child. Release date to be announced. So let's go ahead and get into the last segment of the show. In this segment here, I have 5 potential top 10 NBA draft picks. These guys are in college right now. Let's go ahead and start with a fellow Ohio native. His name is Caris LeVert. If LeVert sounds familiar, it's because he is a cousin of the famous Gerald LeVert, and he is of that family tree of the OJs. This young man here, Caris LeVert, he was born and raised in Columbus, right outside of Columbus, a town called Pickerington. Let's just go with Columbus. That sounds a little bit more easier to pronounce and understand. So this young man, Caris LeVert, he is a senior, 6'7", 205 pounds. Plays for the University of Michigan. He's averaging 17 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. He is a perimeter defender, can also score. What I'm hearing for him, he could be like a mid first round pick to late first round pick. So he can make a team very happy. He can play the 2 or the 3. He's a shooter, plays some defense. He had a big time surgery in his junior year where he had a broken foot. And so he decided to go ahead and come back for his senior year to try to improve his draft stock. He's having a good year, and so far it's panned out. There have been rookies in the past that have came back where it hasn't panned out. But in his case, it has panned out. And so coming back for him is paid big dividends. I believe in the future, as time goes forward, you're going to see a lot more upperclassmen get picked. I was actually reading an article on Bleacher Report about a lot of freshman players. They call them the one and dones. A lot of these guys aren't really ready to play. And so teams are kind of backing off of them this year. But this year's draft, what I'm hearing, won't be a strong draft. And so you may see a lot of upperclassmen get picked. Teams are looking at players like Draymond Green, a player who stayed in there for 4 years, who stayed in college for 4 years, played under Tom Izzo. And he came in the NBA ready to play, knowing how to play. And of course, he had to improve like everybody does at the pro level. But he came in ready to be a part of the rotation. And I believe that you're going to see a trend for more seniors to get picked and get drafted. So Caris LeVert, like I said, this is a guy that you're going to see go in the mid 15 to 30 pick, 30th pick. Whoever lands him, it should be like a playoff team. You should see some early contribution from him. Keep your eye on him. He is a candidate for the Wooden Award, so keep your eye on him as the tournament approaches. Let's go overseas. As in last year's draft, Kristaps Porzingis, he went number 4. A lot of people didn't know who he was, and so there were a lot of boos. And a lot of people said that the New York Knicks blew the pick, but he has turned out to be quite a pleasant surprise for the New York Knicks. In this year's draft, there is another foreign player, a Croatian sensation. He goes by the name of Dragan Bender. So his name is Dragan Bender, or you can pronounce it Dragan Bender. Not quite sure. I do apologize. But Dragan Bender, 7 foot, 215 pounds. He is a do-it-all small forward in the mode of a Tony Kukoc. If any of you remember Tony Kukoc from the mid-90s Chicago Bulls teams, he was the 7-foot guy who can handle the ball, pass, shoot, dribble. Dragan Bender, he actually modeled his game after Tony Kukoc. Nowadays, I have heard that he patterns his game after Dirk Nowitzki. He was born in Bosnia, but spent most of his life growing up in Croatia. Right now, he is playing for Maccabi Tel Aviv in the Israeli Super League. So he's playing in Israel. He is projected to be a top 5 pick. He looks to be another player in the Scottie Pippen mode. I know I didn't get to it, but like I said, Scottie Pippen effect is still coming. That my analysis on that. He reminds me of Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's who he reminds me of, who plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. That's who he reminds me of. His numbers aren't impressive right now. He doesn't get a lot of playing time. They don't promote dominant ball hogging and scoring overseas like how they do in today's pro game. So his numbers don't look as great. He can handle the ball. He can shoot. He can pass, dribble, can block shots. He's an all-around guy. He's one of the guys that a lot of teams are going to try to have in the NBA as we start to get toward the year 2020 and beyond. He's going to be the type of player that you're going to want on your team. A guy that can guard multiple positions, can still handle the ball, pass, and shoot. So, Dragan Bender, like I said, right now his comparisons to me are Giannis Antetokounmpo. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We have another player by the name of Buddy Hield coming out of the University of Oklahoma. So Buddy Hield, he is a phenomenal scorer. He is actually number 2 in the NCAA for scoring. He's averaging 26 points a game. Phenomenal scorer. Can get mad buckets, as they say on the streets. He is 6'4", 212 pounds. He was born in the Bahamas. Like I said, he is a scoring machine. He had a big-time game against Kansas. Oklahoma at the time, they were the number 2 seed. Kansas was number 1 at that time. He had 46 points against Kansas. Any true fan of basketball, I advise you to go online. I advise you to go look him up. Look up that 46-point game. He's a phenomenal, explosive scorer. A team that's having problems scoring, you're going to want to look at this young man right here. I'm hearing he's projected top 10. He reminds me of a taller Kyrie Irving. Doesn't quite have the handles of Kyrie Irving, but he reminds me of him a lot. He can score in a lot of different ways. Not a pure shooter like a Stephen Curry, but he can shoot the 3, but can also drive and score in a lot of different ways. He could be a steal. Teams that pass on him, they may regret passing on him. I think he would be a good fit for a team like the Charlotte Hornets or New Orleans Pelicans. He's a guy that can come in and just fill it up. Like Anthony Davis could use a guy like him on the perimeter. That would free up room for Anthony Davis to do his thing. So once again, the name is Buddy Hield. He is a phenomenal scorer. He is projected to go in the 5 to 10 range in the NBA draft. And also be sure to look up his 46-point game against Kansas. It is on YouTube. Just want to type in Buddy Hield, Hield. So we're going to keep it moving now. We're going to get into a big fella. His name, they pronounce it Jakob Poeltl. The phonetic, the way it's spelled, you may think it's Jacob, but it's Jakob, and last name is Poeltl. He's a 7'1", 240-pound big man playing for the Utah Utes right now. He's projected to go in the 5 to 10 range. He's a big man who can run the floor, has good footwork, can finish around the rim. He sets good screens. He can roll off that screen. He can score fundamentally. And that's what I like about this big man, Jakob Poeltl. Like I said, he's projected 5 to 10. He's the type of big man you can dunk the ball into and get points out of. Could be another Brook Lopez from the Brooklyn Nets. He's that type of big man. He had a big-time game going against the University of Temple. He had a big-time game playing the Temple Owls, where he scored 32 points and 11 rebounds. So a very phenomenal performance from him in that game. He also went against Ivan Rabb, playing a big-time game against Cal. He did lose that game, but I spoke about Ivan Rabb in an earlier MoonKast. Ivan Rabb had 19 points and 10 rebounds, but Poeltl also had 19 points, so they pretty much went right at each other. Jakob Poeltl, he is a big man that you want to keep your eye on come tournament time. Phenomenal young big man. A traditional big man. So a team looking for somebody that can score in the paint, this is the guy that you want. Last but not least, we're going to go to the number 2 overall pick, or what I'm hearing, he has the potential to go number 2 in the draft. His name is Brandon Ingram. He plays for Duke University. Duke has currently lost 3 games. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They've lost to 3 unranked teams. They lost to Clemson, Notre Dame, and Syracuse. They lost to Syracuse just last night, actually. This team, this is a team, like I said, could make some noise tournament time. They are the reigning, defending NCAA national champions. Brandon Ingram, he's a 6'9", kind of another do-it-all small forward. But he's pretty thin. He only weighs 195 pounds. He's averaging 16 points and 6 rebounds right now. He doesn't have the strength yet to really bang and box out. He has that potential. He does have the 7'3" wingspan. So he does have the wingspan to be a good defender. He's not a good defender yet. So it's going to take him a while to kind of figure out the game a little bit. But I'm hearing he is number 2. He could go right behind Ben Simmons in this draft. Like I said, 6'9" guy. You can't teach that wingspan. He's a guy that if you can get him out into the open floor, he can run and jump and cause a lot of havoc. So let's just say a team like the Lakers or Philadelphia 76ers, if one of those type of teams miss out on Ben Simmons, this would be a guy you might want to take with his 6'9" height and the 7'3" wingspan. He's a guy that can guard your perimeter for you, and he's a guy that can help out on the defensive end once he figures out the game. So we just covered 5 potential top 10 draft picks. We covered Brandon Ingram, Karis LeVert, Dragon Bender, Buddy Hield, and Jakob Poeltl. We just covered these players. They're all phenomenal young men. Some may or may not be better than the guys I talked about in a previous MoonKast. I talked about Jamal Murray, Ivan Rabb, Jaylen Brown. Of course, I talked about Ben Simmons, and I talked about Chris Dunn. So some of these guys may not be better than those guys, or you may see all the 10 that I mentioned go in the top 10. So keep your eye out on, once again, Brandon Ingram, Karis LeVert, Dragon Bender, Buddy Hield, Jakob Poeltl. It may be hard to keep your eye on Dragon Bender right now. You may have to go on YouTube, look up a lot of his clips. You will hear more noise on him getting closer to the end of the tournament and towards the draft combine times, which the NCAA has given players more of a grace period after the draft combine to see where they may be projected to go in the draft, so some guys can make their mind up, and then guys can decide if they want to come back to school, they can come back to school. So they have more flexibility, leading up to the draft. We have had a very exciting, very explosive MoonKast. This is the best one yet. I feel like every week they get better and better. The topics get better and better. And I am very thankful that you have decided to listen in today. Let's go over what we're going to talk about in next week's MoonKast. In the next show, we're going to talk about the top 10 players in NBA history at each position. ESPN put a ranking out of the top 10 players at each position in the NBA. I'm going to say if I agree or disagree. So we're going to go over that in the next MoonKast. You do not want to miss that. We're going to talk about the New York Knicks. We're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. And we're going to talk about the Chicago Bulls in next week's MoonKast. Those three NBA teams. This next week coming up, this will be the official week. I will discuss the Scottie Pippen effect. This will be the week that I will do that. So next week, you do not want to miss that show. It's going to be explosive and very impactful. So the Scottie Pippen effect we're going to talk about. We're also going to go over the NBA standings. We're going to talk about the current standings as we're getting closer to All-Star break. So we're going to talk about the current standings. We're also going to talk about any trades or rumors or anything of that nature. And we're going to give you another update on Ben Simmons. We're going to see where he's at on the next MoonKast. A last tidbit, Joakim Noah from the Chicago Bulls, he is out of the lineup with his shoulder surgery that he's going to require for his shoulder. So he may not make it back this season, or he may make it back in time for the playoffs. He's going to be out a while, so that's a huge blow to the Bulls. I've heard rumors they wanted to move him. It also may be a huge blow to his stock in the open market, as he's a free agent. Teams looking to sign him, so that is a little bit of tidbit or a little bit of news. So Joakim Noah will be out for the Chicago Bulls. Other than that, it's pretty quiet on the rumor and trade front. But like I said, this has been a very explosive MoonKast. I'm so thankful that you decided to join in. And please feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Griffin_Gchild. Please stay tuned for the updates on the Moonbase Chronicles LP. Please stay tuned for next week's show. You don't want to miss out on that. As of January 19th, 2016, I am signing off. Thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to MoonBase Radio.